Let's bring this fantastical meeting into session. In today's meeting, I'll be going over some questions that you can all ask yourselves when you're building a fantasy world. I wish I had this information before I started the Death Chill series, because there's a lot of flaws in that world, and I know there are flaws, but I don't remember where they are, and also I'm too lazy to get rid of them. So I'll definitely be using these questions with all my other fantasy series. Also, before I start, I want to give credit to the Instagram account at SunsetWritin. That's at SUNSETWRITIN. And I highly recommend that you check them out. If you're listening to this on the Instagram account at creativewriting_club, then they will be mentioned in the description. So now let's get into it, starting with healthcare. How is healthcare funded in your world? How does healthcare functionally differ between the wealthy and the poor? I.e., can only the wealthy go into hospitals? Do poor families often have to rely on back alley procedures? Where are health centers organized in your cities? Does it differ in smaller towns? How does this affect people's ability to get health care? Is health care magical, and if it is, how does that affect the healthcare system? If healing is instantaneous, how does that affect people's views on injury, illness, and chronic alignments? If you have both magical and physical healthcare, which one is deemed superior, and how does that affect society? What illnesses are common in your world? How does this affect daily life? What do people in your world think illnesses are? Is it a miasma theory, humor theory, demons? Do they know about biological viruses and bacteria? How does this affect healthcare? Now, that's everything for healthcare. Now for resources. How do people get water? Is the water sanitary? And if not, how do they sanitize it? How does agriculture work? Is it large corporations or individual farms? What sort of agricultural technology exists in your world, and how does it affect food production? Are farmers wealthy or poor? What sort of natural resources does your world/countries have, and how are they obtained? How does this affect the average wealth of the country? How does this wealth affect the culture? What livestock or beasts of burden are most valued, least valued, and why? What is considered a luxury good versus a regular good? Now is resources. Now for transportation. What forms of transportation does your world have? What classes use what forms of transportation? How far has the average citizen traveled given your transportation limitations? Which cities are most accessible and which are the least? Why? How do popular transportation methods change how cities/towns are laid out? Does your world have public transportation? What is it? Is there a common coming-of-age aspect to travel? Describe your world's postal system, or whatever equivalent there is. Who pays for it? How reliable is it? Are there emergency methods for transporting information? That was everything for transportation. Now let's look at economy. How does your world keep time, i.e. watches, sundials, water clock, etc.? Does your world have a currency system, barter system, or something else? If you have multiple countries, do different currencies have different values across said countries? How does this affect travel? Do you have banks in your world, and if so, how are they run? Who owns the banks? Government? Wealthy? How does this affect economy and/or class system? How does credit operate in your universe? Does your world operate more on big corporations or small businesses? Perhaps something in between? How are workers slash laborers treated in your world? Are there workers' unions, and if so, what are common views on unions? Describe your tax system. If you don't have a tax system, explain why and how your world is affected by that. Can certain social classes not own property, certain livestock, certain businesses, etc.? Why? How are business records kept? Are business records kept? If your world has technology, how does your world prioritize developing entertainment tech, communications tech, transportation tech, or something else entirely? What does this say about your worlds? How does this affect your economy? Now, that was economy. Now let's move on to politics. To the closest approximation, what type of government does your world have? How are rulers, presidents, nobles put in place? How much power does an individual ruler have? Is there a veto process? If you have multiple countries, do they have different types of rulers? Describe any large-scale alliance that presents in your world, i.e. countries, factions, etc. How did they come about, and how are they maintained? Are they strained or peaceful? How does it affect the greater politics of your world? Describe how wars are fought, both internationally and nationally. Do methods of war differ between countries/races? What about philosophies about war? If there is a military, what is its hierarchy structure? How does the military recruit? Is the military looked upon favorably in your society? What weapons are used by each country/type of people during warfare, and how does that affect war strategies? Describe the sentencing system in your world. Is your accused innocent until proven guilty, or guilty until proven innocent? How are lawbreakers punished? If you have prisons, describe how they are organized and run, and who owns them. Does different ownership change how the prisons operate? What are the major ways in which laws between countries vary? Do laws between countries vary? If so, how and why? How does citizenship work in your country? What rights and privileges do citizens have that others do not? Can certain classes or races not become citizens? Are there certain taboo subjects or opinions that artists, authors, musicians are not allowed to depict, i.e., portraying the official religion in a negative light, explicit sexual material, etc.? What does this say about your society? How do people get around these censorship laws? What is the official hierarchy of duty in your world, i.e., is family the most important, or patriotism? What about clans? How many languages are there in your world, and how many languages share a common origin? How many people are multilingual? Which language is the most common? How is multilingualism viewed? How are different languages viewed? I.e., is one language ugly /barbaric while another is romantic and sensual? And that was everything for the questions on world building. I'll make another one if I find enough information that may be helpful enough. Check out the Creative Writing Club Discord server in the description. If you're listening to this on Instagram, it is linked in my bio. The Creative Writing Club Instagram account is at creativewriting_club. My personal Instagram is at dark_night_wolves. Let's bring this fantastically amazing meeting to a magical end.